And so we are there. Welcome, 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 everyone, to our Power Thinking, Rejuvenating Your Amazing Mind training for Wednesday, November 5th, 2025. And this is our 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time edition. I'm your moderator, Stanley Green. And always, always, always a pleasure to be with you because this is our opportunity to share this extremely powerful, valuable, essential information, designed to help you um, build these inner strengths, get stronger in these 7 areas so that when adversity hits, not if, but when, then you are ready. And our dog, or Yorkie Chaya, is in my other chair looking at me as she's trembling a little bit because we talk about adversity. We have these storms outside. It's knocked over patio furniture. And so it is really raging outside. So didn't see this coming at all, didn't hear about this coming. But it's a mini micro adversity. They're bigger, much bigger adversities that we experience. And the goal is to stay calm, to control our impulses, to be aware of negative thoughts that could be holding us back. We are essentially retraining our minds so that when, not if, these things happen, we are ready and we bounce back faster. So today we focus on power thinking resilience skill number 2, avoiding thinking traps. And remember, there's 7 skills that help us build on our 7 strengths. So I'd love for you to I'd love to get your thoughts about that. I see Olu on. Hit that *6 at any time. And we are going to go to you and get your thoughts about overgeneralization. And we shared a video. I'd love to hear what you thought about the 3-minute, 3.5-minute video on overgeneralization. And it didn't really tell you exactly what to do, but it very clearly showed how folks can overgeneralize and get themselves into a thinking trap. So love to get your thoughts. Hit that *6 and let's talk about it. And have you ever overgeneralized? Have you noticed folks overgeneralizing about as it relates to politics? And we just had in the United States, all eyes on the city of New York as they elected a new mayor. And there were a lot of overgeneralizations that were probably overcome, with that one election. If you have any comments about that, anything else that you've noticed in your life where folks may have overgeneralized, and we'll go through those 7 inner strengths and 7 skills, but we don't want to wait too long, and we'll right to the phone lines, and we'll start with. Let's see who is up. We'll start with Carla Hill. And I know, Ola, you were first, but you popped out and you're back in the queue. You're behind Carla. So hang in. If you need to pop out and pop back in to conserve some energy, please do that. Carla, thank you for joining us. Mention where you're joining us from and your thoughts about overgeneralization, that overgeneralization thinking trap. Welcome.
Thank you, Stanley. I'm calling from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I was on the line this morning and I talked about this being a new video for me and how it caught my attention because I knew the topic. It did say what the topic was going to be. And it was a disturbing video, right? Just in terms of the behavior of the persons I'm watching. And at the end, the lesson is more towards the behavior of the woman, and that again it caught my attention because it was very smirking and catching my attention to learn to make the point was really what's the word, effective. Because why I like and just again that human resources background that I've done in investigations, train people in investigations professionally. There's a process of deprogramming, making sure that you are limiting your biases. But as I was speaking during the day, that's why I like going to the morning and the evening, because there's not an, what I say all the time, that there's not an absence of content and information. There's an absence of implementation and execution. I tend to say the same things all the time to different people. And as and that's why I like the intentional space between the morning and the evening, because I'm testing myself. So I'm listening to what I'm saying, and in my speech is a lot of overgeneralization. Like I'll say things like, in terms of talking to people about operating in their designs and their careers, I talk about how I've let go, terminated tons of people, and they're not bad people. Well, because my point is that you're not operating in your designs and talents, but some people were bad people. So I can't say whether they all is no all or not, because when I'm listening to people and they say all or never, it catches my attention and it pauses. But now I'm paying attention to my wording, and I would not be doing that if I didn't have that content and the application of testing myself. It's easier to see the other people, but it's tougher to really that self-evaluation. So that's my takeaway for today, just being that practitioner of being careful of saying overgeneralizing, because what you say really does start taking effect internally. So
yes,
that's my takeaway for today. Thank you for allowing me to share.
Well, thank you, Carla. Great points, and it's amazing how we can be, in our careers, and of course, you were dealing with people for decades in situations, and some of the things that we're sharing now kind of brings up things certainly in your mind, and the traps that we can fall into. We see people, maybe how they're dressed, perhaps where they're from, some of the things that we may assume about a culture and their background. If someone said that they were, let's say we're talking about Philadelphia, from a certain part of the city, there are certain assumptions that are made about that, and we jump to a conclusion, and we overgeneralize because a person is from, and since you're in Philadelphia, from South Philadelphia versus Northeast Philadelphia versus West Philadelphia. So we have to be really careful. There are overgeneralizations made about countries. Now, we're going to go next to Olu, who's in Nigeria, and we just heard the President of the United States talk about Nigeria and perhaps made some overgeneralizations about what needed to be done there. So let's not waste any time and go right to Olu. And Olu mentioned where you're joining us from, and mention your thoughts about this thinking trap called overgeneralization, and we'll kind of take everybody through, the entire framework after we speak with you. Welcome, and good morning to you.
Hi, Stanley. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Olu calling in from Lagos. So the thing is, every day I think a lot, I guess because I spend a time sitting down at the PC and all of that, and then I take some just get some fresh air and all that, and some thoughts build up in my mind. And for me, the program with PowerThinking, is critical. I can only speak for myself. I can only speak for my situation. I know every country is tough, but Africa, Nigeria, we're still at that level where we're basically developing. I remember that as recently as a few years ago, when I say a few years, I'm talking about 5-10 years ago, we didn't even have banks online. No access to credit and all of that until, the PowerThinking Corp and all that, that we now have some banks online that you can just on your phone, you can open an account, you can take loans and so on and so forth. So that's how backward we are. As I'm speaking now, I'm on a generator, which is like the standard thing 247. You know, the rare time is, you know, when you have power for like maybe 30 minutes or so. Very rarely. You can't plan on that. You know, it's difficult to make any progress. So the thing is that I don't come in for the power thinking, resilient system, you know, to fulfill all righteousness, or just because, you know, I feel like it. I actually need it. You know, I tell my kids a lot now and then that nobody will die. That is basically how we live our lives. You know, we prioritize needs based on what is, you know, critical to the point of life and death. You know, so if it's not about life and death, you know, that means it's not an emergency. It doesn't have to be dealt with. And that is how real, you know, my need for power thinking, resilience thing is. It's something to stay safe, you know. And I see a lot of people around me now and then when I go out, when a client calls me and I go to the office and I have to go through the public transport system, I see a lot of people that I sense, and say I sense because that is the more accurate thing, that might not even be as old as I am, but they look older. The thing is that if we are not able to stand in the midst of the storm, you know, find a place instead of just becoming anxious and, you know, turning right, left, and center, feeling lost and confused by the storm, because storms will come. You know, life itself is kind of like a storm. The difference is that we're talking about the degree of the storm. You know, so one of the things that helps me to do that, in fact, I know for a fact, one of the things I've been able to carry on is thinking tracks. And I know for a fact that Stanley is aware of that because he's called me. He sent me messages about 3 times when something happened and I said something to him on WhatsApp and he responds that I should remember this. So the thing is that this means a lot to me. I've got 4 kids. I can't go crazy. I can't lose my mind. So what I do is when something happens or when I'm expecting something and it doesn't come in, maybe from a client, an opportunity for a new job, maybe to build a or a company or a website, I calm down. I calm down. I'm not going to give up the little that I already have because I'm bothered about the one that I was expecting to come. It thought that would not make sense. Kind of like a poultry farmer losing his cool and then running on, rushing all over the place because he was expecting maybe a new delivery of some chicks and all that, then breaking eggs that he already has. I'm not going to do that. That's not practical. So that is what these 7 keys of resilience do for me. It's real for me. I need it in an environment like you mentioned. Now we have Christians, you know, actually being killed. I'm aware of it. I'm in Nigeria, the place where it's happening. I used to pass through that place on my way to Federal Government College, bar boats, you know. So it's happening, you know. And the thing is that our country, I'm not going to go too far because I mean it's long history of political, you know, events. The thing is that it's tough. It's a corrupt country, unimaginably corrupt. I know that other governments in other countries, because I remember what Dutch was able to bring out and all of those things. So it's difficult them the way it is, you know, at the end of the day. You know, so these techniques, you know, thinking traps, overgeneralization, which I used to be, you know, involved. I used to be guilty of. I remember that I would always feel that, and in my country, there are, you know, superstitions. You know, people feel that they've been caused. People feel that it's the family cause, the generational cause, that it's because of something that somebody had done, and all of those things. You find that it's the mind. You know, we build these things, and those things attract the reality that we have. You know, and it takes time. So I've been going through my house. You know, I look at my mind as a house that I live in. I've been going through it, and you know, cleaning out. That's basically what I'm doing. Or learning is what some people call it.
Yes.
Carrying or something, and it's tough. I'm not going to make it sound like it's easy.
Yeah.
I'm 52, but they're helping. The techniques are helping. Yeah.
Good. Excellent. Olu, thank you. And by the way, just one quick thing, because we've heard a lot here in the United States about what's happening in Nigeria, and there was talk about going in and dealing with, you know, some of the maybe gangs that are you know, doing harm to folks who practice Christianity. So tell us from Nigeria at now about 3:46 a.m. on Thursday. Is that real?
Yes, Stanley, it is. I have a video that I stopped. You know, I know the place. It's called Jos Plateau. You know, we traveled by boat when I was going to Taraba State, where the federal government colony was, over Pew River. So I know the place.
Yeah.
Now, to be honest with you, there is no way. It's not a problem. I must tell you, I've lived here all my life. I've not lived anywhere else. I was giving birth to here. It's complicated, you know. It's about the Boko Haram people. And I remember that one of the findings that Doge had was that CIA was actually funding, you know, Boko Haram. You know, they funded their launch and all of those things. And you know about regime changes and controls. It's complicated. You know, so anybody who sees all of these things, you understand, you know, the problems are multi-layered. They're deep. One never knows what governments are doing, government agencies, what their motives are. You know, when a crude oil exporting country, and then there are, you know, people who have no integrity. And all they care about is the money that they get. They take the millions of dollars in numbered accounts, Swiss accounts, and they collude. A lot of things are done, you know. And our people, some of our people are involved in some of these, you know, so-called terrorists. You know, a few years ago, I think one of the heads of the NSA, you know, Nigerian Security Agency or something, was actually removed from office. It's complicated. You know, we're told that some of the ministers, you know, because the problem is middle bound and in the north, you know, they are more religious places because they are not so well developed, you know.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
Academically, commercially, and all that. Because
Yes.
it's like the commercial, yes.
So yes or no, you know, should the United States into Nigeria and do something about this?
For me, you know, and that is why I've always cared about the United States. Because when I was growing up, I recall that almost any country where there was a dictator, where people are oppressed, it was always the United States that would come in, you know, maybe with the United Nations and rescue the people, deliver the people. You know, but as I grew up, you know, we began to find out that there might have been more to that, like what happened in Iraq, you know, in Libya, and all of those things. You know, but the thing is that, I mean, if I have a problem, I'm that kind of person, I reach out, which you know, you keep telling us that it's part of the 7 keys of resilience. We need to be humble enough to be able to reach out when we get to points in our lives, you know, that are beyond us. We're not organized enough. We're not developed enough. That is the fact of the matter. This is 2025. So I would love for the United States to come in and help. They have done something like that before. I know that there was an embassy or something that happened in Abuja a couple of years ago. There was an explosion, you know, and American forces were actually on ground then, you know, but I can't recall if any American life was lost. You know, and you know, there are a couple of people who are also talking about, you know, nationalism, Americans focusing on, which makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Charity at home. If they're going to come in, it should be because, you know, they want to. They should not, the people want put them to, they shouldn't come in and then people would respect them, I think they're forcing themselves on people because I'm aware of the pushback by Tinubu, the president, and all of that, who I respect to a certain extent because he's kind of like a technocrat, or like all the presidents we've ever had who have just messed up the country. But we're hoping that he's going to do a better job because he has the background. He was at Mobile. He was the chief accountant at Mobile, and he fought against the military and all of that. Then
Got it. So your vote is for, hey, you believe that you need the help and you welcome the help of the United States. So folks, you heard it, directly from someone who's there in Lagos, Nigeria, the largest city in that country, and who, believes that, yes, the United States should come in to help with that situation with terrorists killing Christians. So thank you, Olu. Really appreciate it. And we got a little off topic, but I think this was very appropriate and the timing was right because, you hear about, strategies and thoughts about, going into Nigeria and helping, and folks had different opinions. And we heard from the president of Nigeria, who Olu said certainly is respected, has a lot of business experience. However, there are folks who are living in the cities, in the neighborhoods, in the towns, who may be affected and who may have relatives who are affected. And if they're not seeing any change, then certainly, in Olu's opinion, folks are, there are folks who welcome the help. So appreciate that, Olu, and really appreciate the fact that you're on, very early in the morning, close to 4 a.m. In the morning on Thursday from Lagos, and I wanted you to go on, especially as it relates to the United States and Nigeria, given the recent pronouncements by our president. But those inner strengths of resilience, those skills that Olu mentioned, Carla mentioned, the things that we focus on every week are absolutely critical. I just did a workshop not too long ago focusing on this, and let's go through them again. The goal through all of this is to make sure that when life's adversities hit, we are ready. So it is important for us to be able to control our emotions. Easier said than done, but as we practice those skills, the awareness skills, the action skills, we're in a better position to stay calm under pressure. Then there's the impulse control. And by the way, there are world leaders, prominent world leaders, who really need help in these two areas: emotion regulation, our ability to stay calm under pressure, and impulse control, the ability not to say or do the first thing that comes to your mind. Then there's empathy. We heard about certainly the mayor's race in New York, the new mayor, and what was said was that this person was very strong in their empathy, only 34 years old. So talk about overgeneralization. The new mayor in New York defied a lot of the overgeneralizations, and there may have been overgeneralizations, like in the video where it said, "Oh, men are this way," or "Men are trash." But in this case, in politics, there were folks that said that this individual was 34 years old. What does he know about anything? Being that young, and you're talking about running one of the largest and most impactful cities in the world, in New York City, and yet he was elected. And in part because of that strong empathy, his ability to understand other people's experiences and emotions. Another, from a religious standpoint, in a country that is predominantly Christian, and he's a Muslim. And it's not like Nigeria, where it's pretty much 50-50. But, in this country, majority Christian, and here he is, New York City, and he's a Muslim. And does not shy away from that. There are overgeneralizations about Muslims. There were, unfortunate, nasty things said about him, and yet he overcame. Talk about resilience and won. Yeah, I'm not, a fan, or, I'm not a detractor. I'm just making the observation as it relates to what we talk about and what we're talking about with overgeneralization. Uh, there were, overgeneralizations about politics. While the person was of a particular persuasion, he is viewed by some to be at the extreme. They mentioned the word socialist and Marxist in a capitalistic society. Folks would overgeneralize that people that have those characteristics, it's virtually impossible to win. And he defied that. And so, talk about his emotion regulation at 34 years old, running now, one of the largest cities in the world. His impulse could be, which actually helped him win. His self-efficacy, you can tell, that this young person had a belief that he had control over his ability to win, despite, the overgeneralizations that people made about him. His optimism, right? It was there. The causal analysis. He knew that there were root causes to some of the challenges that people were facing, and then reaching out. And certainly he had to do a lot of that, connecting with other people, taking action, to put himself in a position to now be the youngest person in, I believe, a century, to win the mayor's race for the city of New York. So, what are those skills? Again, there's 3 awareness skills that we must have and practice, and then 4 action skills. The awareness skills, learning the ABCs, the relationship between the adversity, the belief about the adversity, and then the consequence, one of those 5 big negative emotions that we always talk about. There's avoiding the thinking traps. Tonight's focus was overgeneralization, and we kind of worked through that, avoiding that overgeneralization. And there are 7 other thinking traps. The third of the awareness skills, detecting these iceberg beliefs. There's people that had deep-rooted beliefs about, someone, of Indian descent, someone who's a Muslim, someone who is very young, and their beliefs about this person that kind of restricts them from being able to embrace folks who they may have overgeneralized about. So next, it's about the actions, challenging those deep-rooted beliefs, putting things in their proper perspective so that we all can move forward together, staying calm and focused as opposed to emotional, so that we can have that real-time resilience as human beings, so that no matter what we're dealing with, we can bounce back and we can move forward. So I thank you all for being with us this evening and joining us, and hope that you have a wonderful remainder of the week. And remember, since we spend all of our time thinking, these 50,000 thoughts a day, we must think with power and utilize power thinking. So we're wrapped up. I want to thank you all for joining us. Eric Olson, thanks for being with us, and Sharon Smalls, and Carla, and Calvin Patterson, Pen Kowalski, Layla, Timothy Butts. Eddie, good to see you. It's early in the morning for you as well in the UK. Good to see you, Christy and Olu. Thank you very much. And Olu, or Eddie, thank you for being a partner. We appreciate you. Take care, everybody. Layla, I'll see you as well. Have a great one, and we'll talk again next week. All the best. And for those of you on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Facebook, we appreciate you as well. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.